Hello and welcome to A Spirited Debate. I'm Lauren Green. He turned fighting against people into fighting for people. Justin Wren was a popular, successful mixed martial arts fighter, but he struggled with addiction and depression. He found faith in God and turned his fighting skills towards defending pygmies in the Congo who were being enslaved and cannibalized by rival tribes. But Justin didn't just help the enslaved, he also helped their enslavers through his foundation, Fight for the Forgotten, which brings clean water, land, and food. And Justin joins me now. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just amazed by you. So how did you find this pygmy tribe?
Well, that's a really long story, but I was basically a drug addict, a depressed, drunk drug addict for 6 full years, and I gave my life to Christ. I say God loved the hell out of me, and from there, I was just praying, and I was 11 months sober, was trying to find a way to fit in, and really just to give my life to a cause or to something that really had meaning. And so I was praying and said, God, what do you want me to do with my life? And it can sound nuts, it can sound crazy, but I kind of had a vision. It was like a movie in my mind. I saw myself in the forest and met these people, didn't know who they were, where they were, anything like that. And the first guy I told was like, that's the pygmies. I'm like, where? Or who? And then he's like, they're in the Congo. And he says, and I'm like, where? And so I ended up just going with him 3.5 weeks later after that vision, and went, and I know that sounds nuts. I felt nuts. I cried a puddle of tears this big, almost hyperventilating, crying, and didn't know what was going on. But I went and met them and fell in love with the people. They accepted me and with open arms, and we became second family. And I've lived there for about 2 years, going back and forth. So.
Wow. You know, you found the pygmies. When you found them, the rival tribes were calling them animals. And they actually said, you know, what are you doing with our animals? Like, what are you doing with our dogs? I mean, why were they being enslaved? What was the situation there? Because most of us think that slavery doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that's a fact that a lot of Americans overlook or think it's from our past, but it isn't. It's happening today, and worse than ever in human history. There's an estimated 27 million slaves on planet Earth today. And so with the pygmies, they're just looked down upon. Their average height's 4'7". I mean, even here in New York, in the Bronx Zoo in 1902 to 1906, we had a Mabuti pygmy in the zoo living in the monkey house.
Really?
Feeding them bananas.
Oh.
And so they've just always been looked down on as less than human. And so they're, they're looked down on as definitely second class or as part man, part animal.
You know, this journey for you was really fueled by your faith in God, obviously. How has that been tested, you know, in this process? And have you been able to share your faith with both tribes?
Yeah, definitely. Whenever it's strategic, we're not going there at all to beat anyone over the head with a Bible or anything like that, but we lead with love. And this all started on my faith, and that's the foundation of it, and that's what keeps me going through it. But yeah, it's definitely been tested, but I believe it's become stronger. I mean, I have had malaria a few different times, and the first time I almost died, and a lot of people were telling me to come home, but you know, this is what they deal with each and every day. And so I just stood there and just kind of suffered through it. But I lost 33 pounds in 5 days, but the whole time I was just praying, just, God, you know, help me and let me understand this. And it's one thing to read about it, it's another thing to see it and have your heart broken, and then it's another thing to live through it. And so I think you learn a lot more whenever you are there, and you can listen to them and learn from them and live life out with them, and just go through life together. And so we've built all these relationships, and it's been really great. It's been without a doubt the joy of my life to just love them and see how we can do land, water, and food initiatives to see them come up.
You know, one of the things that you're doing is building wells, because one of the things that we learn here in the modern first world country is that most of the diseases, like 80%, a lot of the diseases in these third world countries could be obliterated with just fresh, clean water. And so you're building wells, but you didn't just build it for the pygmies. You actually built it for the people, the tribes, the rival tribes that were actually enslaving them. How did that happen?
Well, I think it happened because we just really wanted to love the community as a whole, and we saw them as equal, so why not? And also, you know, it all kind of started whenever a 1.5-year-old boy actually passed away. His name was Andy Bow, and I was holding him when it happened, and the blood came out of his ears, and you know, I dug the grave, and I don't want to get too far into that. It's a rough one, but then we're also going to the funerals of the slave masters and seeing that they're suffering from the same exact thing, that they've never had access to clean water. And so how can we love both sides? How can we bring peace to a place that really needs it? And that was just coming in and loving both sides equally and not showing any difference. And just saying, hey, we're here to love you guys, and so what do you need? And then that was the top of the list for both sides.
This is sort of an example and a lesson that we could take back here in the first world country too, because there's a lot of love that's needed here. You know, you wrote a book on your experiences. It's called Fight for the Forgotten: How a Mixed Martial Artist Stopped Fighting for Himself and Started Fighting for Others. Justin, Wren, thank you so much for being here. I also want to make sure that people know that they can find out more about your foundation. It's called fightfortheforgotten.org.
Yeah.
And if they want to contribute, they can go to that website and find out more about your organization and contribute as well.
Yeah.
Really wonderful stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a blessing.
And thanks for watching A Spirited Debate.